giving you an opportunity to get the full story from the people who tell it best. This is Mediacom News Leaders.
I'm Elizabeth Kling with Mediacom News Leaders. Right now, we're talking with Maestro Giunta, the conductor and music director for the Des Moines Symphony. Thank you so much for being here.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Elizabeth.
We want to talk about the upcoming work that you're in the process of putting together right now, Ellis Island, The New World.
Yeah. On March 16th and 17th, the Des Moines Symphony is going to play this piece. It was written by a friend of mine, Peter Boyer. He wrote it. He lives in New York, and he wrote it. Started writing it right after the 9/11 tragedy, and there's no other piece like it in the repertoire. I mean, it's very American sounding, but it's scored for a very full symphony orchestra. We have 5 actors telling immigrant stories, and then there's some visuals that we've borrowed from the Pacific Symphony, who also performed the work. So it's very exciting for us, very different. Certainly cuts to our mantra about media specific, and we really are pretty excited about it.
Yeah. So take us through kind of the different pieces and how they fit together.
Yeah. There are 5 immigrant stories that are quite moving, I think. I think our listeners will find that first of all, Peter listened to well over 1,000 different stories that are housed at the Ellis Island Foundation, the Oral History Foundation, which, by the way, anyone can go and listen to these stories that are just absolutely remarkable. Most of the people that were interviewed are now in their 80s and early 90s and tell their story about coming to America, why it happened, how it happened, how the trip was across the ocean, and everything else that they can think of. So these are, we have a Polish story, a gentleman from Ireland, Greece, Italy, and one other country. But there are 5 of these stories, and interspersed throughout the stories is music and visuals, which are very, very good.
Yes. Tell us a little bit more about that, just your work to engage the audience in all different ways.
Yeah, we get good grades from our audience whenever we can have anything visually that accompanies our music. A lot of our traditional people that just come to hear Beethoven or Brahms sometimes say, geez, I wish those visuals are a little distracting, but 95% of our audience really enjoys them. We've done things like Beyond the Score and commissioned to work with a local film company by Michael Dougherty, American Gothic, and the State Fair piece, which I think I've talked about before here. So our audiences are used to it. We try to do something like this at least once a year, but these visuals are authentic black and white photographs of people, groups of people coming through Ellis Island. Some people you'll see like white X's on their back, meaning that they, for whatever reason, weren't going to be allowed to come into our country and had to go back. So it's very touching, very moving, and when you accompany that with these visceral and very heartfelt stories by these professional actors and music that's incredibly appropriate. I mean, every note that Peter has written just seems to have great meaning to it and great substance. And so but it is challenging for us because you've got sort of 3 different things going on at once, and it's quite challenging time-wise.
Yeah. We want to mention too, you have a personal connection to Ellis Island when you're looking at these photographs. This is an experience that your ancestors have gone through.
They have, yeah. All 4 of my grandparents came through Ellis Island. I'm from southern New Jersey, so had the opportunity, as most school children do from that area, that tri-state area of New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, to go and to the museums and whatnot. And this was a field trip that we did that interested me when I was about 5th or 6th grade, and then later when I became a young adult, went back and with my parents, of course, and traced our roots and got most of the documentation from my grandparents, and it was really something. But the maternal grandparents came over separately. My grandfather came over first around 1908, and then he brought with him 3 children, all boys, and they started to work in Brooklyn and then eventually moved to South Philadelphia. And once they had some money and a decent place to live, then they brought my grandmother and the girls over. So,
wow,
yeah.
what a story. Well, Thank you so much for your time today. And if people would like to enjoy Ellis Island, The New World, that will be March 16th and 17th.
Correct.
All right. Well, we've been talking with Maestro Joseph Giunta from the Des Moines Symphony. Join us next time here on Mediacom News Leaders.